right now, when you think of safety for elderly people, you think Life Alert.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, people are living longer. Life Alert is targeting people who are like 60 and older. People who are 60 now don't consider themselves old.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
And so they are not going to want to wear this big, bulky red button around their neck. It's kind of a stigma of getting old.
Exactly.
When people aren't feeling old at these ages anymore. So it's not, one, Life Alert doesn't have certain features that a lot of features that Tantech does. But even if it did, it's not useful if you're not going to wear the product.
Yeah. All right, so unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've noticed plenty of conversations surrounding AI, platforms like ChatGPT, robot dogs, robot police officers being deployed in various places. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. And let's be real, most of it is not making everyone feel very comfortable or very safe. Well, our guest today is actually doing something that not only is amazing, is futuristic, that something that I think is dope, but actually is something that I believe would truly keep us protected and is concerned about our safety. So our guest today is Jillian. She is the founder of Tantech. She also is a graduate of Harvard Law School. So I'm really excited to talk to her today. She's a criminal defense attorney living in New York. So we got a lot of really cool stuff to talk about her technology and what it's doing and going to be doing even more to basically allow us to have greater safety. So Jillian, thank you so much for being here at Tech is the New Black.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we literally just saw each other 2 or 3 months ago at Afrotech.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Afrotech. Everybody caught a bug that we were literally talking about. Everyone caught some different type of bug.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was worth it.
But it was, everyone left out a little sick. But
yeah. We still loved it. It was definitely a good time. And you had reminded me when we saw each other at Afrotech that we had met before. Is that right? Or am I tripping?
I don't remember that, but maybe.
But you used to live here though, right?
I did. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. I think it's one of those things where you're talking to so many different people.
Right.
I think when you were like, yeah, I used to live in Atlanta, my mind probably mixed it up with someone else saying, yeah, we met before or whatever.
Fair.
But
there were so many people there. Yeah.
So as y'all can see, most of these conversations are not super scripted, so that's why there are opportunities for me to embarrass myself like I just did right there. But nevertheless, really excited to talk about just Jillian's story. And let's go ahead and get into it. You have gone from Harvard Law School graduate to a founder of a personal self-defense tech startup, which I think is so dope. But what led you to go to Harvard Law in the first place?
Yeah, so, I always kind of had this interest in law. When I was in undergrad, I started working at a law firm pretty early on, my sophomore year, just to kind of get my feet wet, see if I liked it, see if it was something I wanted to do. And it clicked for me. And the firm that I was working at the time, my boss and I, it was a really small place, so we got really cool over the years. I worked there until I graduated from undergrad. And when it came time to apply to law schools, I was applying to these top 14 schools, and I was getting into everyone that I was applying to, and I would let my boss know, keep him updated. And he was like, why don't you apply to Harvard? And I was like, they don't waive the fee waiver. So, it's not, I was not going to apply to Harvard because they didn't waive the fee. And I was like, I probably wouldn't get in it anyways. You have that doubt. And I think
because it's Harvard. That's a big deal.
It's Harvard. And I think too, just, Black men, Black women, sometimes we just doubt ourselves.
Yeah,
we don't think that we're supposed to be in those spaces. And my boss at the time said to me, if I pay the application fee, will you apply? I said, okay.
Yeah.
I applied 10 days before the deadline, and I got in.
That is dope.
Yeah.
That is super dope. So I guess what was your experience like there?
It was really great. It was a different experience. I went straight through from undergrad to law school. And so I was like coming out of college, going to Harvard of all places. I was like in this super focused mindset. And I found that it wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to get there and it's like, you're not sleeping anymore. You're up every night in the library until 3 a.m. And just wasn't my experience. It was challenging, but it also taught me too, like, you're managing your time. You focus on what you need to focus on and you get it done. I loved it. I thought it was a good experience. And I felt like I got to do some really cool things while I was there.
That's super dope. I've heard people, different various people like Jordan Peterson, who's he's a clinical psychologist. He's talked about sometimes the difference between a Harvard versus another college or university that might not be as popular. And of course, this isn't true for all, but he said oftentimes it's more so the brand than it even is. Of course, still, let's put respect on Harvard's name. There's still you have to work hard. There's still a lot that comes with it. But I think that's part of the intimidation. Again, it's just an assumption. Part of the intimidation that people think like, oh, I might not be able to do it is because of the prestige that comes behind it. But as long as, and I mean, tell me if you agree or disagree, as long as someone, and maybe this kind of relates to the tech industry or relates to like other industries where it can seem so intimidating, but it's like, hey, as long as you manage your time, as long as you work hard, all of those different things that, it find, just like you found out, like, hey, this actually isn't that like overwhelming.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think getting in was one of the hardest parts. I was already in the school mindset since I was just coming from undergrad, and it feels very linear. I mean, once you're in, you know what you have to do. You have exams coming up. You have to read. You have to study. It's a clear path of what you need to do. I think it's a little bit different as I navigate this startup world now. It feels... there's no clear path. Everyone goes at it a different way. And that's been a little bit more challenging because it's like, you have to figure it out. You have to grind. What works for them isn't going to work for you. Just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. You have to kind of create that yourself. So it's a little bit more of a unique path that you really have to like have that heart to keep going. I felt like law school, you have to have that grind for sure to get in. But once you're in, it's like, I have to keep doing what I was doing that got me here. I need to study and focus. And it's like, if I do that, I'll do well.
Yeah, I think, and this is an assumption, but you strike me as a type A person or a person that likes structure, things like that. And it's so interesting seeing the two different types of entrepreneurs, where they're the entrepreneurs that are much more kind of free flowy, much more just kind of creative energy. And then there are others where it's like, again, it's like, structure, things like that. Almost like the difference between a Tim Cook versus Steve Jobs, where Steve Jobs was very creative, just kind of all over the place. And then Tim Cook is he's much more structured. And it's like the irony is that both can be successful, as Steve Jobs obviously is one of the greatest, creatives and technology creators of all time. But also Tim Cook being more of a type A person, he's not as creative, but Apple's become more successful under his lead. So I love like someone like yourself who is so big on structure, but you still being like, hey, I'm still going to do this thing and I know I'm still going to make this work. So I think that's super dope.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just being open to, you're not always going to have structure in startup life. There are going to be ebbs and flows, and you're going to be constantly learning new things. And that's been fun too, like adapting to that and just like learning as I go.
Hey y'all, we have some incredible news that I'm super excited about to finally announce our private tech community. Yes, you heard that right. A private tech community exclusively for you all who want more than just a podcast. You want more than just the FAQs. You want to talk with tech recruiters. You want to talk with hiring managers. You want to talk with coaches. You want to talk with people that can help with editing and rewriting your resume. Maybe you're somebody where you just want to be a part of a community where we're talking about updates of what's happening in the software industry. Y'all, this community that we've launched is also going to involve a Discord where we're going to be talking about updates in tech. We're going to be talking about companies that are hiring. We're going to be talking about upcoming tech events. So that way you don't have to miss any of the gems that I know, but not even just what I know, but the gems that friends of mine that are also in the tech industry know as well. So if you want to be a part of that community, go ahead and sign up so that way you can join us. We have a few different tiers. Ultimately, it's all tuned in for you. Oh, and last thing, also within this community, we're going to be streaming all of our interviews with our podcast guests. So instead of you having to wait months to watch the videos later on, you will actually be able to watch the interviews in real time and ask your live questions to those guests. So make sure you join our tech community. Yeah, so speaking of that, so Harvard Law, you are a criminal attorney.
Yep. So I do commercial litigation and criminal defense. Okay. So do a little mix of both.
Okay. A little mix of both.
Yeah.
And you do that in New York. So within that, how did the transition from that to Tantech, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I actually had the idea for Tan Tech in law school. I was in my final year, getting ready for my final spring break, and I wanted to do a solo trip. It was going to be my first solo trip, first trip out of the country. I was planning to go to Paris. I did go to Paris. And when I told my parents about this, they were worried. I'm the youngest in the family. I'm the only girl. So needless to say, they were not thrilled. And Paris, it's not a dangerous place. I felt like, I'd spent summers in New York. Like, Paris felt like, it's nothing.
It's the city of love.
What could happen? But seeing their reaction to it, it got me thinking, like, what if something did happen to me? I'm going over there by myself. I never wanted to end up in a situation where something happened to me and nobody knew what that was. And so, as I'm getting ready for my trip, I'm looking at options. I'm looking at kind of safety devices that are out on the market, and they all require you to call for help yourself. And I started thinking, well, what if I can't? So that really birthed the idea for Tan Tech, and really started thinking of a lot of different scenarios for how it could be helpful. That also led me to thinking of people with Alzheimer's dementia. My grandmother has Alzheimer's. And I would see firsthand how she would wander and get lost in those early stages when she was still living on, self-sufficient at her own place. She'd get in the car to run an errand, and midway through the trip, she kind of slips out of her right mind and she's lost. And we don't know where she is. So Tan Tech is really something to give people that peace of mind and call for help, alert your loved ones, even when you can't do it yourself or you're not aware that you're even in danger, like someone with Alzheimer's. Yeah.
Man, so you said something a moment ago. You were talking about how the only solutions you were able to see is that people would have to like call themselves for help. But what does Tan Tech provide that's different than someone trying to pull out their cell phone or trying to find like a local payphone to call for help? Like, how does Tan Tech, or the other example you gave with your grandmother, like how does it provide a solution that is superior to that?
Yeah, so Tan Tech, it still has those manual triggering features. The idea too is it's in the form of jewelry. So it's discreet, it's stylish, it's something that you actually have on and will have on with you more often than something that you're rummaging through your purse for. But it also has automatic triggering features that in a variety of scenarios can send out alerts, based on the kind of situation that you're in. And it can send out alerts to your emergency contacts without you having to do it yourself. So whether it's someone who has Alzheimer's and they wander and don't make it home, that could send out an alert. Whether you're out at, out somewhere and you're supposed to be with your phone and something happens or something happens to you, that can send out an alert. So it's a lot of scenarios where you're able to call for help and let people know that you need some attention, you're not okay, even when you can't say those words yourself.
That is so dope. I love that so much. I was literally telling the team when we were kind of going over the guests that we're going to have today, and I was telling them how excited I was to talk to you about this. I was like, man, this is such an incredible thing. So you mentioned manual alerts, you mentioned automatic with jewelry. Is it like someone and if there are certain things you don't want to be shared for whatever reasons, totally fine. But is it like a button, or does somebody like switch something, or how does someone manually make an alert with jewelry?
Yeah, so for the manual triggers, there will be a paired mobile application too, and they'll be able to press an alert in the app, or there'll be a button on the piece of jewelry as well that they can hold and press and send that alert out to. The idea too is that we wanted it to be something that's discreet. Even in situations where people can call for help themselves, there's times when you can't make it obvious that you're calling for help.
Yeah, definitely.
You think about situations where people are getting in the wrong Ubers and they realize that this is going downhill fast. I need help. You can't be rummaging through your bag looking for your phone and letting the driver see that you're calling for help.
Exactly.
But if you have a necklace that you can easily press, or some jewelry that you can easily press and send a silent alert, and someone's coming to your aid and following your location, that's huge.
That's amazing. Because, just most attackers they would see, they wouldn't even think anything of it. They would think, okay, even if they see someone like touching their necklace or touching like their bracelet, they could be thinking like, oh, it's just a nervous twitch type of thing. I mean, I've seen people do like nervous twitches where they'll touch their jewelry and do things like that. So I love how discreet that is, how subtle that is. And yeah, so it tracks the person, like their location. So even if they're moving, it's tracking where they're at.
Exactly. So it's providing live updates on where they are so someone can come to their aid. And the discreet nature of the jewelry is also really important too for, older people might be suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia. Right now, the prime, when you think of safety for elderly people, you think Life Alert.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, people are living longer. Life Alert is targeting people who are like 60 and older. People who are 60 now don't consider themselves old.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
And so they are not going to want to wear this big, bulky red button around their neck. It's kind of a stigma of getting old.
Exactly.
When people aren't feeling old at these ages anymore. So it's not, Life Alert doesn't have certain features a lot of features that Tantech does. But even if it did, it's not useful if you're not going to wear the product.
Yeah, exactly.
And no one wants to have that stigma of this big red button. I'm old,
It's literally like a target. Like it's like putting they're saying, oh, put a target on my back and say this, like putting a target around your neck.
Yeah.
It says, hey, I'm an old person. I need help. And it's like, no one wants that.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love that a lot. So with the automatic feature for someone who might be elderly or has Alzheimer's, is it something where they would kind of walk off a certain distance and...
Yeah. If they leave a certain area, go out of a certain distance that they're supposed to be in, it can alert their loved ones like, hey, look, they've gone, keep an eye on them, make sure they get back. If they don't, you can see exactly where they are and help them.
Man, I am such a fan. Like I'm like a super fan of this.
Yeah,
this is so dope.
I appreciate it. I mean, look, I think this is going to be super, super helpful for so many different people. It's it's problems that are happening every day.
Yeah, I'm getting a little emotional because my grandmother has Alzheimer's, so I'm literally just kind of thinking about that. Thank you for doing this. What you're doing with Tantech is dope. It's fire.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get on with the interview. For anybody who's listening to this, don't watch the video because I don't want y'all to see me tearing up because I'm a thug. Y'all don't watch it. Just don't watch it because I want y'all to see me tearing up. Yo, so one of the most in-demand roles in tech and one of the most roles that you all ask us about the most is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is one of the most recession-proof style jobs in tech. And to take it a step further, it's also a job where you can make a crap ton of money in this industry. Many of you have been asking us about the best route to get into cybersecurity. There are a few different routes that you can go, a couple different boot camps that I think are really great for cybersecurity. But recently we just partnered with one called Syntax Technologies. They are one of the most highly rated boot camps in the US. And to take it a step further, their boot camp isn't just under $5,000, but also they provided us with a unique discount to provide to our audience. So that way you all do not have to pay the full price for the bootcamp. This also involves any discounts they might have, any special sales that they might have. You can use this discount on top of their sale. Now listen, y'all, their cohorts are limited. They only have about 3 cohorts a year, and it's on a first come, first serve basis. So make sure you go ahead and sign up ASAP so you can speak to an advisor, and that way you can enroll in Syntax Technologies and become a cybersecurity analyst. With that, you've given a few different personal examples, but realistically, like, is this like a major issue? Is this something that's beyond just these anecdotal examples? Like, what information is out there that shows that this is something that's of mass importance?
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of stats out there on safety and things related to what Tantech is trying to solve. Over half of Americans feel unsafe on a day-to-day basis. And that's, walking to their car, commuting home, walking on the sidewalk, these mundane everyday tasks that we have to do. I know, just speaking from personal experience, being in New York, the kind of mental gymnastics that I go through every time I take that subway. And it's so ingrained, I don't even think about it at this point. But I'm constantly thinking, I don't wear my headphones when I take the subway anymore. I'm getting down there, I'm saying, okay, who's behind me? Who's to my right? Who's to my left? All right, the subway car is coming up. All right, this car has a little bit there's too many men on this train and no women. That train only has one man and no one else at all. That train's empty. I don't want to get on an empty one. I mean, you're just constantly thinking through these scenarios. Yeah. And people need some way to feel like they have that peace of mind, that safety. And this problem it's really heightened in the Black community. Mm-hmm. You see that a lot of these issues are just disproportionately affecting our community, especially Black women and girls. Yeah. When it comes to kidnapping, human trafficking. Yeah. These are really problems that are disproportionately impacting us. And even Alzheimer's. Black Americans are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's than white Americans.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so we need, these issues are affecting us, at an alarming rate. And on the other hand, when you look at media coverage and the kind of news and attention that pops up and really captures, the nightly news, they're not our stories.
Yeah, they're not. That's true.
Yeah, Black children that are missing, Black women, all these kind of things, those don't make the nightly news. Those don't garner these widespread, social media going viral.
Searches, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I think in the Black community, it's kind of, that's known. We know that we're not seeing this this representation. Yeah. And we feel as though we are the protectors of our family, of our friends, of our community. Mm-hmm. And that is something that's been ingrained in me even since I was younger. I have a story when I was in high school getting ready for my senior year spring break. Mm-hmm. My mom came on the trip with me. She came on my senior spring break trip, and there were other parents there. I was like, Mom, come on.
Yeah.
And she went with a friend and, gave me my space, but she was like, I'm coming on that trip with you because your name is not Natalie Holloway. And Natalie Holloway was a blonde white teenager who went missing back when she was 18, when she was in her senior year of high school, when she was on a trip with other students from the school. National attention, widespread. I mean, years after she went missing. She went missing in like 2005. Mm-hmm. They were still talking about it in 2012 when I was a senior.
Whoa.
They were still talking about it. And it's a tragic case. I mean,
we're not saying that it shouldn't be talked about, but it's just that wouldn't have happened for you.
Exactly. And they were talking about it then because they still hadn't found her body, and they were going through, whether to kind of call it at that point, which is really just awful. But my mom was looking at that and realized, like, my baby's not going to get that attention. Like, I need to watch her. I need to be there.
And that's tough.
And so, I think that's a common thing in our communities. Yeah. We have to protect our own.
Man, this is so incredible. I've typically been a person where I've kind of moved around, semi-freely. Some certain privileges I have as a man is that I'm less of... I have like less risk of someone wanting to kidnap me. But even I've noticed recently, as like just even social media, like with certain popularity and being out in places where I'm like, man, I feel like much greater risk of someone wanting to attack me or wanting to even getting in certain vehicles or being in certain cities. I'm like, man, I have to be careful to not go down an alley or be in certain areas and places. And so I could only imagine how much worse it is like for women, but I could even see like men taking advantage and needing something like this. And then obviously the parental aspect, like you just touched on, and then us caring about the elderly, us caring about women. So this is something where I'm like, man, this is deeply important. And I'm like, this is actually incredible. And it's actually wild to me where it's like, yo, with all the technology, all the software, everything that's happening, it's like, it's wild to me that this isn't something that people are not just going like almost crazy over and be like, hey, this needs to be at the forefront of what we're using technology for, not just for amenities and us getting our food faster, but it's like, man, like us actually protecting our society, us protecting our women, protecting our children, protecting and taking care of, looking after our the elderly or people that have certain illnesses.
100%.
So yeah, this is dope. You're the first person we've had that where it's like it's hardware, like it's like real like
Right,
cool
right.
technology. So, but it's also cool. So even as a concept, it's dope. It's like, man, it's jewelry. Like everyone, I have bracelets on right now.
Yeah.
It's like, man. So I'm going on a just kind of like a rant right now, but it's just so dope to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what does the future? And this is where we kind of get into a little bit of the little sci-fi type of stuff. And what does the future of like personal defense technology look like? What could it look like, especially with all the advancements happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many developments and advances that are happening all the time. It's hard to even say what it would look like in 3 years, 4, 5. You know, it's just so many things are unfolding at a rapid pace.
Oh, and also we don't want to expose any future ideas and plans.
Right. Yes, there will be always new things in the works, but no, I mean, I think that we need to get to a point, and I believe that society is going to move that way, where people genuinely feel safe in their day to day, whatever that looks like, and that everyone kind of like feels like they're on that even playing field when it comes to safety. I mean, like you mentioned, a lot of men don't have to think about the kind of things that women are going through and thinking through just to make it home at the end of the day. And that shouldn't be the case. Women should be able to leave their homes confident that they're going to come back, that someone's not going to harass them on the street, that someone's not going to try and kidnap them in their Uber to the grocery store. I mean, it's like, it should be it just should be, we should have much more of a peace, like just peace of mind. So yeah, I don't know exactly what that looks like. I know that my product is part of how we get there.
Definitely.
But
yeah, and the other thing that's dope about it is that it's not an invasion of privacy. So because on one end, the argument that's been made, and I'm not making an argument for or against this, but understanding all different sides of arguments, one of the solutions that the government or certain government agencies have been trying to come up with is, oh hey, we'll just put a camera everywhere and we'll record everyone at all times. And again, I understand arguments for, arguments against it, but the arguments against it are, hey man, I want a certain level of privacy. I don't want to be getting snooped on at random times, you know. And so, but this is something where it's not an invasion of privacy. It's literally something that it's there for when you need it, but it's not there just watching you, you know, at all times, where it's like very awkward and weird.
100%. And you have your community that is like, those are the people that are watching and monitoring. If you want to share things, if you're sharing the sound of the location you're in, if you're in danger, if you're sharing your whereabouts, it's your trusted community that has that information. I mean,
that's fire.
The criminal lawyer in me, you know, if we had cameras all around the place, we know how that would be disproportionately used.
Yes.
To come back and get us, like, it's just how it would go. So having your trusted community having access to that information and being able to come to your aid or send, you know, call the police if they need to get the police involved. But I think that's really key, that it's your trusted circle.